Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. Malcolm Ward was 34 years old, and until that Thursday afternoon in late November, he thought he had the perfect marriage. He taught United States history at a public high school in Atlanta, earning about $52,000 a year. For 6 years, he had been married to Felicia, a woman he believed he knew better than anyone. That day, when the sky over Atlanta was a cold, pale blue and the first Christmas decorations were going up in his neighborhood, Malcolm made a decision that would break apart everything he believed about love, loyalty, and the person sleeping beside him every night. Felicia worked as a senior account manager for Meridian Pharmaceutical Marketing, a mid-sized firm that specialized in launching prescription drug campaigns. She traveled frequently for client meetings, conferences, and workshops. Her salary had climbed to $95,000 a year, with performance bonuses that sometimes added another $15,000. Malcolm had always been proud of her success. He had never resented the income gap, never felt threatened that she out-earned him almost 2-to-1. When Felicia stayed late at the office, Malcolm cooked dinner and left a plate for her in the fridge. When she flew to Chicago or New Orleans for work, he graded essays on Reconstruction on their living room sofa and texted her little jokes. When she talked about promotions and stock options, he listened, asked questions, and told her how proud he was. They had a modest 3-bedroom craftsman house in Decatur, a fixed-rate mortgage they could just manage, and a kitchen they had renovated together in the spring, arguing cheerfully over cabinet hardware in the aisles of a home improvement store. This particular trip was supposed to be a 3-day pharmaceutical conference at an oceanfront resort in Miami. Felicia had left on Tuesday morning, her sleek black Toomey suitcase rolling behind her as she walked to her white BMW in the driveway. She had seemed distracted, checking her phone as Malcolm handed her a to-go cup of coffee. "Big pitch?" Malcolm asked, leaning against the doorframe in his t-shirt and sweats. "Huge," Felicia said, sliding her phone into her blazer pocket. "If this campaign lands, it could mean senior director by next year. That is 6 figures guaranteed. Leon thinks I am ready." Leon Price was her direct supervisor, a senior vice president at Meridian. Malcolm had met him twice at company holiday parties. Leon was tall, fit, and effortlessly polished, always in sharp suits that looked expensive even to Malcolm, who barely noticed clothing labels. He drove a luxury sedan, had a Master of Business Administration degree from a prestigious business school up north, and a reputation for being brilliant but demanding. Felicia had described Leon as a mentor, someone who understood office politics and had taken her under his wing. "He pushes me because he believes in me," she had said more than once, pride shining in her eyes. Malcolm had believed her. He had no reason not to. His plan for the week while she was gone was simple: teach, grade essays, watch college basketball, order Thai food, and enjoy a quiet house. On Wednesday evening, that plan changed with a single phone call from his mother. "Baby, your Aunt Helen finally mailed that birthday gift she's been talking about," his mother said. "It came to my house by mistake. I am holding a $3,000 check in my hand with your name on it." Malcolm laughed in disbelief. "3,000? That cannot be right." "It is," his mother replied. "You know how Helen is with those envelopes. She has been stuffing cash away for years." She said she lost track and then found a whole stack labeled Malcolm. "She wants you to spend it on something you will actually enjoy. Maybe take Felicia somewhere nice." After he hung up, Malcolm sat at the kitchen table staring at a photocopy of the check his mother texted him. $3,000 was not life-changing, but it was more than enough for a plane ticket, a hotel room, and a fancy dinner. The thought formed almost all at once: surprise Felicia in Miami. Be romantic. Shake them out of their routine. He opened his laptop and searched for flights. There was a Delta flight leaving Thursday at 2:15 in the afternoon, landing in Miami at 6:47. Round trip, $387. He booked it before he could talk himself out of it. Then he found a beachfront restaurant Felicia had once shown him on her phone, a place in Miami she had called ridiculously pretty. He made a reservation for 2 at 8:30 that Thursday night. Malcolm went further. He ordered 2 dozen roses from Miami florist for delivery to the resort with instructions to hold them at the front desk under his name. He imagined the look on Felicia's face when she opened her hotel room door and saw him standing there with flowers. In his mind, she put a hand over her heart, laughed, maybe even cried, and said something like, "You are ridiculous and I love you." On Thursday, Malcolm told his principal there was a family situation that required him to leave after lunch. He packed an overnight bag with his best jeans, a button-down shirt, and the cologne Felicia liked. His stomach fluttered with a nervous, excited energy he had not felt since their early dating days. The flight was smooth. Malcolm graded a few essays, half-focused, writing comments about primary sources and analysis in the margins. Each time he glanced at the time remaining on the seatback screen, he pictured Felicia's expression when she saw him. He rehearsed what he might say when she opened the door. Maybe something simple. Surprise. Sometimes simple was best. When he stepped out of the airport into the warm Miami night, the humidity wrapped around him like a damp blanket, a sharp contrast to Atlanta's crisp November air. His rideshare driver, a man named Gerald with a soft voice and an old-school soul playlist on the radio, talked about his favorite restaurants and how the city had changed over the years. Malcolm tried to listen, but mostly watched the lights streak past the window. The resort loomed ahead, all glass, steel, and soft lighting, palm trees lining the driveway like sentries. Inside, the lobby smelled faintly of citrus and something expensive Malcolm could not name. People in suits clustered around low tables, talking into phones or nursing drinks. He felt suddenly underdressed in his khakis and polo shirt, but he reminded himself he was not here for them. At the front desk, a woman whose name tag read, Aisha, smiled professionally. "Welcome in, sir. Are you checking in?" "Yes," Malcolm said, "but I am actually here to surprise my wife. She is staying here for a conference. Felicia Ward. I believe she is in room 847. Aisha's fingers flew across the keyboard. Her smile faded around the edges. Her gaze flickered from the screen to Malcolm's face, then back again. Her voice, when she spoke, was careful. "I do see a reservation for Ms. Ward. She checked in on Tuesday." "Great," Malcolm said, relief loosening his shoulders. "Could I get a room key for her room? I want to show up at the door with flowers." He lifted the hotel's plastic-wrapped bouquet the concierge had handed him. Aisha bit her lip. "I'm so sorry, sir. I cannot give you access to another guest's room without permission. It is policy." Malcolm took out his wallet and slid his driver's license across the counter. "She is my wife," he said, trying to keep his tone polite. "Same last name, same address. We have been married 6 years. I promise this is not anything strange." Aisha studied the license and the wedding photo on his phone that he held out, then looked at her screen again. Her expression shifted from discomfort to something like pity. She lowered her voice. "Mr. Ward, I truly wish I could help. The room is registered under your wife's company card, but there is a second guest listed on the reservation, a Mr. Leon Price." The name hit Malcolm like an actual punch. Leon, her mentor, her boss. The man in expensive suits who had bragged about quarterly numbers over shrimp cocktails at last year's holiday party. For a moment Malcolm could not speak. His ears rang. His grip tightened around the stems of the roses until the plastic crinkled. When he finally managed words, they came out hollow. "Thank you," he said. "I understand." He turned away from the desk, walking toward the elevators on numb legs. People moved around him in a blur. A couple laughing over matching cocktails, 2 women in conference badges comparing notes, a family wrangling children toward the pool. It felt like watching a movie, sound turned down. In the elevator, Malcolm saw his reflection in the polished metal doors. Late 30s, lean, tired from the school year, eyes already beginning to show confusion and dread. He pressed the button for the 8th floor with a hand that did not feel like his. The hallway was quiet, carpet swallowing his footsteps. Abstract art hung on the walls, all sharp angles and smeared color. He passed 841, 843, 845. His heart pounded louder with each step. At 847 he stopped. For a few seconds he just stood there, staring at the gold numbers on the darkwood door. He lifted his hand to knock, then froze. From inside the room came Felicia's voice, muffled by the door but unmistakable, light and breathy with laughter. Another, deeper voice answered, the cadence familiar, even though Malcolm could not make out the words. Malcolm's hand dropped to his side. He did not want to hear more. His body did. He could not move. The sound shifted. Laughter turned into something else. Softer noises Malcolm recognized with a jolt, so sharp he thought his lungs might collapse. Springs creaked rhythmically. A headboard tapped lightly against a wall. And then Felicia's voice, in a tone he had heard only in the dark safety of their own bedroom. "Yes. Right there, Leon," she said. Malcolm's knees threatened to give out. The roses slipped from his fingers onto the plush carpet with barely a sound. He stared at the abstract painting opposite the door, a canvas filled with red slashes crossing a field of black, while his heart hammered painfully against his ribs. Part of him wanted to pound on the door, to scream, to drag it open and force them to face what they were doing. He pictured Felicia scrambling for clothes, Leon scrambling for excuses, both of them rushing to reframe this as some complicated emotional mistake. He knew exactly how that conversation would go. Tears, apologies, gaslighting. Somehow his hurt would be twisted into the problem. Another part of him, the part that taught students about strategy in war and politics, whispered that storms were dangerous when unleashed without thought. This was not the time to rush in. It was the time to observe, remember, and plan. After a long moment that felt like being underwater, Malcolm bent to pick up the roses. His fingers shook, but his steps were steady as he walked back to the elevator. In the lobby, he approached Aisha again. "I would like a room for the night," he said. Relief flickered in her eyes, as if she had been bracing for a scene that never came. "We do have a standard king room available," she said. $279 plus tax. Malcolm handed over a credit card from the joint account he shared with Felicia and checked in under his own name. He took the elevator to the 6th floor, let himself into room 623, and stood by the window staring at the dark stretch of ocean beyond the glass. For a while he did nothing at all. Eventually, he sat on the edge of the bed, pulled out his phone, and opened the Notes app. He typed, Thursday, November, Miami, Oceanfront Resort. He wrote down the time he had arrived, the conversation with Aisha, the room number, the second guest name, the sounds he had heard. Then he took photos. The hotel exterior, the hallway on the 8th floor, the door to 847, the printed receipt for his own room. His first impulse was to call Felicia and shout until his voice gave out. Instead, Malcolm composed a text that took him 3 tries to word casually. "Hey baby, hope the conference is going well. Grading essays and thinking about you. Cannot wait to hear all about it when you get back. Love you." He stared at the message for a full minute, then hit send. Within seconds, the 3 dots appeared. "Miss you too," Felicia replied. "Conference is intense, but good. Leon's presentation killed. Probably another late night. Love you." Malcolm read the message twice, the lies so smooth it might have slid right past him any other day. He turned off the lamp, lay on his back staring at the ceiling, and did not fall asleep until sometime near dawn. Each time his eyes closed, he saw the closed door of 847 and heard Felicia's voice. He flew back to Atlanta Friday morning on his original return ticket, sat silently in his seat as the plane lifted through the clouds, and resolved that nothing about his life could continue on blind faith. By the time he pulled into their driveway that afternoon, the house in Decatur looked different, as if someone had peeled back paint and drywall to expose something rotten beneath. Inside, framed photos lined the hallway. Their wedding at a vineyard in North Georgia, a weekend trip to Asheville, a candid shot from a cookout with friends. Each picture felt like propaganda from a country that no longer existed. In Felicia's home office, he flipped through her color-coded binders, photographed her wall calendar thick with entries: Client Workshop, Chicago, Leadership Summit, New Orleans, Strategy Retreat, Miami. In the bottom drawer, under tax returns and insurance forms, he found a small envelope with expensive stationery. The note inside read in looping ink, "L. Last night was incredible. I keep thinking about your hands. I know we have to be careful, but I wish I could wake up next to you every morning. Same time next month. We could try that place you mentioned. F." It was dated 4 months. Malcolm took several photos of the note, the date clearly visible. He slid it back exactly where he had found it. Later, at the dining table, he opened their joint credit card portal on his laptop and scrolled through months of statements. A pattern emerged: restaurant charges in cities he had never visited, flower shops delivering arrangements he had not seen, hotel stays on conference weekends where the company was supposedly covering everything. He also found paperwork from Felicia's company insurance. 6 weeks earlier, she had increased her life insurance coverage from $100,000 the $500,000, with Malcolm listed as beneficiary. It might have been routine open enrollment. It might not. He felt a chill and shook his head. She was not plotting violence, he told himself. She was plotting a different kind of harm. That evening, he scrolled through his contacts until he found a familiar name, Calvin Hayes. Calvin had been Malcolm's college roommate and closest friend in his 20s. Now he worked as a licensed private investigator in Birmingham. They still traded messages about basketball games and old jokes. But Malcolm had never expected a call asking for professional help. "Malcolm," Calvin said when he answered. "Man, it has been a minute. You finally coming to see a game out here or what?" "Cal," Malcolm said quietly, staring at the glow of his laptop screen. "My marriage is in trouble. I need your skills, and I need absolute confidentiality." Calvin's voice changed instantly, all joking gone. "Tell me what happened." Malcolm told him about the surprise trip, the hotel front desk, the second name on the reservation, and the sound in the hallway outside 847. He explained the note, the financial patterns, the text Felicia had sent while lying about her evening. When he finished, there was silence. "I'm so sorry, man," Calvin said at last. "That is brutal. You did not deserve it. Are you sure you want to go deeper? I have to ask. Sometimes people think more information will help, and it just hurts more." "I cannot live with guesses," Malcolm replied. "I need to know the full scope. I need to know if this is just an affair or part of something bigger. I need documentation that holds up if we end up in court." "All right," Calvin said. "Text me Felicia's full name, her company, Leon's full name if you have it, and any details you have on their travel. I will start tonight. Give me a few days to put together a first pass." After they hung up, Malcolm sat at the table until the sun slipped completely below the horizon. He thought about calling Felicia in Miami, demanding she come home. Instead, he heated leftovers, ate 2 bites, and pushed his plate away. His world felt like it had been quietly but completely rearranged. On Saturday afternoon, Felicia's flight from Miami landed in Atlanta. Malcolm pulled up to the arrival's curb, watching cars stream past until he saw her. Navy blazer, dark jeans, rolling suitcase, hair styled into loose waves. She smiled, lifted a hand, and jogged the last few steps toward his Honda. "Hey, baby," she said, leaning through the open passenger door to kiss him. He could taste faint traces of airport coffee and mint gum. "I missed you." "Missed you too," Malcolm said, helping with her suitcase. His voice sounded almost normal. On the drive home, Felicia talked about keynote speakers, breakout sessions, and networking dinners. She had stories ready, little details about panel discussions and marketing trends. If Malcolm had not been in Miami, had not stood outside a hotel room door listening to her breathe someone else's name, he might have believed every word. "Leon thinks I'm a strong candidate for that senior director role next quarter," she said as they merged onto the highway. "If that happens, we could finally upgrade the house. Maybe look at something closer to downtown. And seriously start talking about kids. I can almost see it." "That is big," Malcolm said. "He takes a lot of interest in your path." "He invests in talent," Felicia replied, completely missing the edge beneath his words. "He says I remind him of how he was in his 30s. Hungry, determined, willing to do what it takes. Honestly, I feel lucky." At home, Malcolm poured Felicia a glass of her favorite Pinot Noir, cooked pasta, and sat with her on the sofa to watch a baking competition show. She laughed in the right places, teased one contestant's frosting choices, and fell asleep with her head on his shoulder before the episode ended. He watched her face for a long time, trying to match this relaxed, familiar woman with the person who had written intimate notes to her boss. In the days that followed, Malcolm moved through his life with careful restraint. He taught about Reconstruction and the Civil Rights Movement, asking his students hard questions about power, accountability, and whether true reconciliation was possible without consequences. During one class, a student named Amber raised her hand. "Do you think people really change," she asked, "if nothing ever happens when they do wrong?" Malcolm thought of Felicia and Leon. He chose his words slowly. "I think consequences, whether legal or personal, are often what push people to take a hard look at themselves. Without them, there is not much incentive to change." On Monday afternoon, Malcolm met Calvin at a Starbucks in Midtown, a neutral spot far from Felicia's office. Calvin sat in the back corner with a laptop, a tablet, and a manila folder on the table, a cup of coffee untouched in front of him. "You look like you have been grading exams," Calvin said as Malcolm sat down. "Feels worse," Malcolm replied. "What did you find?" Calvin opened the folder. "Let us start with Leon. Leon Price, 42, married 15 years to Nicole Price. She works part-time as a nurse at a children's hospital. They have 2 kids, 13 and 10. Private school, home in a nice neighborhood in Brookhaven. On paper, they're the model family." He pulled out a printed family photo, clearly lifted from social media. Leon in a tailored suit, Nicole in a simple navy dress. Their 2 children between them in front of a large, decorated Christmas tree. "Leon makes around $180,000 base, plus bonuses and stock," Calvin went on. "They are comfortable, but not so wealthy they are untouchable." Now here's where it gets ugly. This is not his first affair inside Meridian. Malcolm leaned forward. "Tell me everything." 5 years ago, Calvin said, sliding over a page, there was a marketing coordinator named Paula Green who worked directly under him. She left suddenly after an internal complaint. Severance package, non-disclosure agreement, references phrased very carefully. Officially, it was a voluntary departure. Unofficially, it was damage control. He tapped another page. More recently, there was a senior account manager named Tiffany Scott. She was on track for the same senior director position Felicia is now talking about. Great performance reviews, longer tenure, strong client relationships. Then, out of nowhere, she requested a transfer to Meridian's Boston office and signed an agreement as part of the move. A source in human resources told me there had been a situation with Leon that they quietly resolved. "He has a pattern," Malcolm said softly. "He does," Calvin agreed. "He finds talented women who report to him, blurs the line between mentorship and something more, and when it becomes a problem, the women leave and he stays. The company protects him because he brings in millions in contracts." Now, regarding Felicia, he exhaled slowly. "I have hotel receipts, some of which are joint account covered before reimbursement. 7 trips in the last 8 months where Leon and Felicia's rooms were connected or shared, often booked on her corporate card." Calvin turned the laptop toward Malcolm. Showing email screenshots obtained through legal means Malcolm deliberately did not ask about. Messages between Leon and Felicia, nothing explicitly sexual, but undeniably intimate. "Cannot stop thinking about last time, counting down to Miami. You were brilliant in that meeting. Proud of you." "There is something else," Calvin said, opening another document. "Text messages from last week. Leon and Felicia talking about you." Malcolm read, his chest tightening. "Leon, we have to be careful. Nicole is asking questions about Miami. Felicia, maybe we should slow things down. Leon, we are so close to your promotion. Once that is locked in and your pay bump hits, we could talk about leaving them. But you need leverage. Move some money around first. You do not want Malcolm walking away with half." Malcolm swallowed hard. "They were planning to blindside me." "Yes," Calvin said quietly. "They are not just having an affair. They are strategizing. Both of them." "I am sorry." Malcolm sat back, feeling a cold clarity settle in. "What are my options?" Over the next hour, Calvin laid out 3 paths. A straightforward divorce based on clear evidence of adultery. A public exposure of Leon at work and at home that would likely blow up the company's reputation alongside their marriages. Or a careful, coordinated strategy that combined legal action, internal complaints, and, if necessary, media attention. "Knowing you," Calvin said, "you are not going to be satisfied with quietly signing papers and pretending this was just a private mistake." "I'm not interested in hysteria," Malcolm replied. "I'm interested in consequences. Real ones. Not just for Felicia and Leon, but for a system that let this happen over and over." Calvin nodded. "Then we plan." The next day, Malcolm sat in a polished office in Buckhead across from attorney Lisa Howard, a woman in her 50s with a calm, precise way of speaking. She listened to his story without interrupting, occasionally jotting notes. "You have strong grounds for divorce based on adultery," Lisa said when he finished. "In Georgia, fault can influence division of property and alimony. Given the disparity between your income and Felicia's, and given her documented misconduct, we can likely secure favorable terms for you." "I do not want to destroy her financially for the sake of it," Malcolm said. "I just do not want to be the one left ruined after she planned to do exactly that to me. Understood, Lisa said. You also mentioned Leon's pattern and the company's possible complicity. You are not an employee, so you cannot file a workplace harassment claim yourself. But your information could support claims from the women who are. If we coordinate with them, the company will not be able to ignore this. Over the next week, the pieces came together. Tiffany Scott agreed to file a formal complaint with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, backed by emails and notes she had kept. Calvin tracked down Paula Green, who was hesitant but clearly angry that Leon had simply moved on to his next target. Lisa reached out to a journalist she trusted, Naomi Ellis at the Atlanta Business Chronicle, known for methodical reporting on corporate misconduct. In the middle of all this, Lisa insisted on one more step. You need to get tested for sexually transmitted diseases, she said bluntly. I know that is uncomfortable to hear, but Felicia exposed you to risk without your consent. Sitting in a small exam room at an urgent care clinic later that day, Malcolm answered questions from a nurse about partners and timelines, feeling a fresh wave of humiliation. The nurse was kind and professional, but shame still prickled at his neck. Results will be back in a week or so, she said. We will call you either way. As the days passed, Malcolm maintained his facade at home. Felicia worked late several evenings, texting him that she and Leon were putting out fires with a picky client. He cooked, graded, and waited. One evening, she came home with takeout from their favorite Thai place. Peace offering, she said, setting the bags on the counter. I know I've been a ghost lately. The client is finally signing. It is going to be a huge win for us. Congratulations, Malcolm said as he laid out plates. You have been chasing that account for months. Leon told me today he does not know what he would do without me, Felicia said with a pleased smile. He thinks I am partner material. Me, Malcolm. Partner. Can you imagine? I can imagine a lot of things, Malcolm said, his tone so neutral she did not notice. 2 nights later, he received an email from Calvin marked urgent. Attached were fresh screenshots of text messages between Felicia and Leon. They were talking about meeting at a hotel downtown that night, about the black dress Leon liked, and about how Felicia needed to stop feeling guilty about Malcolm because, as Leon wrote, he will land on his feet. The messages also showed Felicia acknowledging her plan to move money before asking Malcolm for a divorce. If I wait until after the promotion hits and our bonus is clear, she had written, it will be easier to argue for a bigger share. He is too trusting. He will sign whatever seems fair. Malcolm forwarded the screenshots to Lisa with a short message. Move the timeline up. I am ready whenever you are. They chose a Monday. That morning, Malcolm woke before dawn in the quiet house. Felicia slept beside him, breathing evenly, one hand resting on his chest. For a moment he watched her, searching for some sign of the person he had married. Then he moved her hand gently aside, slipped out of bed, and went downstairs to make coffee. At 6:45, a message from Lisa arrived. Tiffany is filing her Equal Employment Opportunity Commission complaint at 9. Her attorney has notified Meridian's legal department of her intent to argue that her non-disclosure agreement is void due to ongoing harassment. Our full evidence package is going to the Chief Executive Officer, Chief Legal Officer, and Head of Human Resources at 9 as well. At 7 o'clock, Calvin texted, Nicole Price saw your anonymous email. She wants to speak today. I gave her your number with your permission in mind. At 7:15, Lisa, divorce papers signed and ready. Process server scheduled for 10 o'clock at Felicia's office. It will be discreet but visible. They will not be able to pretend this is a misunderstanding. Felicia came downstairs around 7:30 in a charcoal suit and deep purple blouse. The outfit Malcolm knew she considered her power combination. She poured coffee, unlocked her phone, and frowned. That is strange, she murmured. What is? Malcolm asked. An email from Tiffany Scott, Felicia said, scrolling. She is making noise about filing some kind of workplace complaint. Leon forwarded it to the leadership team, asking if anyone knows what she is talking about. She always was dramatic. Malcolm took a sip of coffee. What kind of complaint? Hostile environment, harassment, all that, Felicia said with a dismissive wave. She could not handle the pressure and ran to Boston. Now she wants to blame everyone else. It is sad. Maybe it is more complicated than that, Malcolm said. Sometimes people keep quiet until they cannot anymore. Felicia shrugged, checked her watch, and kissed him on the cheek. I might be late tonight. We have that client meeting plus whatever damage control Leon wants to do about Tiffany. Love you. Love you too, Malcolm said to her back as she walked out. 10 minutes after she left, he sent 3 emails from an account Lisa had helped set up. The first one to Nicole. He did not embellish. He explained what he had discovered, attached copies of hotel receipts, text messages, and the note he had found in Felicia's desk. He apologized for the pain it would cause, but insisted she deserved the truth. The second email, drafted on Lisa's letterhead, went to Meridian's chief executive officer and general counsel, outlining Leon's pattern of behavior and the company's role in concealing it through non-disclosure agreements. Attached was a curated evidence file, dates, names, receipts, internal emails, and statement from Tiffany and Paula. The third went to Naomi Ellis at the Atlanta Business Chronicle and 2 other journalists who had covered corporate harassment cases. It was brief. I have documentation of a senior executive at a major pharmaceutical marketing firm engaging in a pattern of inappropriate relationships with subordinates, using company funds to support those relationships, and being protected by his employer through non-disclosure agreements. Several women are willing to speak on the record. If you're interested, please contact attorney Lisa Howard. At 9:23, Malcolm stepped into an empty hallway at school when his phone buzzed. The caller ID showed a number he did not recognize. He answered. "This is Malcolm." "Mr. Ward," a woman said. Her voice trembled, but was controlled. "This is Nicole Price. You emailed me this morning." "I did," Malcolm said. "I'm sorry to have been the one to tell you." "Is it all real?" she asked. "The hotel receipts? The texts? 8 months." Her breath hitched on the last words. "Yes," Malcolm said quietly. "I wish I could say you misunderstood. I heard them together in Miami. I hired a private investigator. I did not act on suspicion alone." Nicole was silent for several seconds. When she spoke again, her voice sounded harder. "Thank you for telling me. I'm going to call my attorney as soon as we hang up. I will not let Leon walk away from this with his life intact while mine falls apart. If you want to coordinate," Malcolm said, "I'm open to that. This is bigger than just my marriage or yours." "It is," Nicole agreed. "He has been walking through this world like rules do not apply. It is time he learned they do. I will be in touch." When Malcolm returned to his classroom, his phone buzzed again and again in his pocket. He silenced it and focused on his students as they discussed the fall of empires, how corruption and arrogance from within often destroyed them more thoroughly than any outside enemy. During lunch, he finally checked his messages. Lisa had sent a photo of Felicia accepting a thick envelope from a process server in the reception area of Meridian's Buckhead office, her expression frozen in stunned disbelief. Calvin reported that Leon had been called into an emergency meeting with human resources and escorted from the building shortly afterward. Naomi's first online story was live. Marketing executive at Meridian faces harassment allegations. An hour later, Felicia's name flashed on his screen. He let the call go to voicemail. She called again and again. By the time the school day ended, Malcolm had 7 messages from her. In the first, Felicia's voice was sharp with anger. "Malcolm, what is going on? I just got divorce papers delivered to my office. In front of people. Is this your idea of a joke? Call me." In the second, she sounded more uncertain. "If you are upset, we can talk like adults. Sending lawyers is childish. Please call me." In the third, panic crept in. "Leon is in some kind of meeting with human resources. Everyone is whispering. Did you do something? Malcolm, answer your phone." By the fourth, she was breathing fast. "I know you know. I do not know how, but you do. We can fix this. It does not have to be like this." The fifth was choked with tears. "I am sorry, Malcolm. I am so sorry. Please do not do this. Do not throw away 6 years." Malcolm saved all the messages. Then he called her. She answered on the first ring. "Malcolm, I know about you and Leon," he said calmly. "I know about Miami. I know about the other trips. I know how long this has been going on." For a moment, there was only her breathing. "Ow," she whispered. "I decided to surprise you," he said. "I flew to Miami. I stood outside your door at 8:47 and heard you call his name. Later, I found a note in your office. I hired a private investigator. I have receipts, texts, everything." "Malcolm, it is complicated," Felicia said quickly. "You do not understand the pressure I was under. Leon is my boss. It started as mentoring. I did not plan. I read your messages," he interrupted. The ones about moving money. The ones about waiting until your promotion hit, so you would have more leverage in a divorce. You were not just cheating, Felicia. You were strategizing how to hurt me and walk away with as much as possible. She went silent. When she spoke again, her voice turned defensive. You went through my phone? You hired someone to spy on me. That is a violation, Malcolm. That is not healthy. It is legal, he said, and it is nothing compared to what you did. We can go to counseling, she said suddenly. We can talk to a pastor or someone neutral. I will end things with Leon. I already told him it was too much. We can rebuild. You cannot just burn everything down because you are hurt. I am not burning everything down, Malcolm said. I'm acknowledging that you already did that. You broke our marriage. You lied every day for months. You chose him and your ambition over me. There is no counseling for that. So that is it, she demanded. After everything, you will not even try. I am done trying alone, he replied. From now on, your lawyer can talk to mine. Do not come back to the house without notice. He hung up before she could answer. In the days that followed, the story grew. Naomi's initial piece expanded into a longer investigation. Tiffany spoke on the record about Leon's behavior, describing late-night messages, praise that crossed professional lines, and subtle pressure to keep him happy if she wanted her promotion. Paula, emboldened by the public attention, confirmed her own experience, saying she regretted signing her non-disclosure agreement. Meridian issued a statement about its commitment to a safe workplace. Leon was terminated for violations of company ethics and conduct policies. The company hired an outside firm to review its human resources practices. Several pharmaceutical clients quietly asked for updates, not wanting their own brands associated with scandal. Felicia's emails to Malcolm grew shorter and sharper. You ruined my career. Everyone knows now. You had no right to drag the company into this. He responded only once. You did this to yourself. I did not sleep with my boss. Weeks later, Lisa called Malcolm in her office with news. Felicia's attorney wants to settle, she said. She does not want a drawn-out fight. They are offering to buy out your share of the house, give you a lump sum, some temporary alimony, and cover your legal fees. In exchange, they want you to sign a non-disclosure agreement about the affair and the circumstances of the divorce. Malcolm shook his head before she finished. No, I'm not signing anything that silences me. I am not out here giving interviews every day, but I will not be part of anyone's pattern of secrecy. Lisa smiled faintly. I told them I expected that answer. I countered. You keep the house outright. Felicia moves out and signs over her portion. You receive rehabilitative alimony for 2 years while you adjust. She pays all legal costs. No non-disclosure agreement. There is a clause that if she publicly misrepresents what happened or tries to smear you, the financial terms shift further in your favor. She paused. They accepted. Malcolm felt a strange mix of relief and exhaustion. She really wants out. Her reputation at Meridian is in tatters, and Leon is gone, Lisa said. From what I hear, he is blaming her to salvage whatever he can with Nicole and with potential employers. Felicia wants to leave Atlanta and start over somewhere people do not know her story. 2 days before Christmas, Felicia came by the house one last time with a friend's car and a stack of flattened boxes. Her hair was shorter now, cut into a practical style. She looked smaller somehow. Thank you for letting me pack my things without drama, she said quietly as she stepped into the living room that had once been theirs. We have both had enough drama, Malcolm said. I'm not interested in more. For an hour they moved around each other, packing books, framed art, and clothing into boxes. The silence was heavy but not hostile. When the last box was taped, Felicia turned to him, arms wrapped around herself. I know nothing I say changes what I did, she said. But I need to say it anyway. I'm sorry, Malcolm. Not sorry I got exposed. Sorry for every lie. Sorry for the way I made you doubt yourself. Sorry for treating you like an obstacle instead of partner. Malcolm studied her face. Why did you do it? He asked. Not the shallow version. The real reason. Felicia took a shaky breath. I like feeling important. Leon made me feel like the smartest person in every room. It started as flattery and mentorship. By the time I realized it was more, I had convinced myself our marriage was stagnant. That older story people tell themselves, where the career and the excitement feel like they matter more than the quiet person who has your back. I told myself I deserved everything Leon promised. Promotions, trips, A storybook life. I turned you into background. You had a choice at every step, Malcolm said. I know, Felicia replied. My therapist keeps asking when I could have chosen differently. There were so many chances. I ignored all of them. She hesitated. The worst part is, you were right about him. The moment his life started to crumble, he dropped me. He told his lawyer I pursued him. He told Nicole it was a one-sided obsession. All that talk about divorcing and being together was just talk. Malcolm felt a flicker of something that was not quite pity and not quite satisfaction. I'm sorry you had to learn that way. I am not sorry he is facing consequences. Felicia nodded. You should not be. He earned every bit of it. I just wish I had not helped him. They stood there for a moment in the half-empty room. The light from the window fell across the floor they had once danced on after painting it themselves on a Saturday night. I forgive you, Malcolm said finally. Not in a way that means we get back together. That is not happening. But in the sense that I do not want to carry hatred around. It is heavy. I have enough to rebuild without holding on to that too. Felicia's eyes filled with tears. You always did know how to make the hard choice, she said softly. I hope you find someone who understands what they have. I did not. She picked up the last box, walked out to the car, and drove away. Malcolm watched from the doorway until her taillights disappeared. In the months that followed, the house began to feel like his. He repainted the bedroom a deep blue he had always liked but Felicia had called too dark. He turned her old office into a reading room with a small desk and a comfortable chair. He joined a gym with a colleague and shed 20 pounds of stress. On Saturdays, he sometimes drove out of Atlanta to sketch and then paint landscapes, discovering a surprising talent for capturing light on canvas. Naomi's story prompted other women to come forward. Meridian settled a class action suit from 6 former employees, paying several $1,000,000 and committing to sweeping changes in its human resources policies. They hired more women into leadership, instituted clear reporting channels, and publicly admitted that their previous handling of complaints had been inadequate. Leon's divorce from Nicole was brutal but efficient. Nicole's attorney secured the house, primary custody, and a settlement that left Leon downsizing to a small apartment and watching his children under supervision on alternating weekends. In industry circles, his name became shorthand for exactly the sort of scandal companies wanted to avoid. Consulting gigs came and went, but nothing like the power he once held. Felicia moved to Boston, accepting a position at another firm that had not been directly tied to the scandal. According to a mutual friend, she worked long hours, rarely dated, and kept attending therapy. She was trying, that friend said, to become someone she herself could respect. Malcolm threw himself into teaching and found that his experience gave him a different kind of empathy. When students wrote about trust, injustice, and second chances, he understood those words from the inside. He did not tell them his story, but he carried it quietly, a private reminder that history was not just something in books. One warm evening in late spring, Malcolm sat on his back deck with a stack of essays and a glass of wine. The azaleas in the yard glowed pink in the fading light. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked twice and fell silent. His phone buzzed with a text from an unfamiliar number. Mr. Ward, this is Tiffany Scott, the message read. Lisa gave me your number. I just wanted to say thank you. Because you spoke up, I finally did too. Because you refused to be silent, women like me were heard. I hope you're doing well. You deserve some peace. Malcolm smiled, feeling something loosen in his chest. Thank you, Tiffany, he typed back. I'm doing better. I hope you are too. We all deserved better than what happened. Take care of yourself. He set the phone down and leaned back, listening to the sounds of the neighborhood as the sky darkened. The life he had thought he was building with Felicia was gone, burned away by betrayal and its aftermath. In its place was something quieter and less certain, but undeniably his. He thought again of that hallway in Miami, of the choice he had made not to explode but to pause, gather evidence, and act with intention. It had not spared him from pain. Nothing could have. But it had allowed that pain to mean something beyond one broken heart. It had stopped a pattern. It had forced a powerful man and a careless company to confront what they had done. Malcolm lifted his glass slightly in an absent-minded toast to the empty yard. He was still single. He was still healing. But he was not broken. He had come through the fire with his integrity intact, and his sense of self not diminished but sharpened. The The night settled in around him, warm and familiar. Tomorrow he would stand in front of another classroom of teenagers and talk about revolutions and turning points, about people who refused to accept injustice quietly. He would hand back essays, make jokes, and push his students to think harder. He would go home to his own house, his own space, his own life. For now, he sat and listened to the crickets starting up in the dark, letting the quiet tell him exactly what he already knew, that the story was not over, only different, and that surviving betrayal was not just about what had been taken, but about what he had chosen to keep. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.